Does exercise increase our lifespan or just our health span? This is going to be a fascinating, very detailed video for you to answer this very question. I'm going to cover if it does, how long it does, how much exercise is required to achieve this goal. We're going to cover what kind of exercise. We're going to cover the time of day that's best to exercise. And then we're going to discover which specific type of exercise you should do. And then all of this, based on the research, there's one more thing that's vital, extremely vital in determining your lifespan and possibly your health span. And I'll tell you that after we cover everything. So let's just jump to the chase. Does exercise increase your lifespan? The research, just like all research on everything, is mixed, but the general consensus is if you exercise properly the way I'm going to discuss in this video, it'll give you another 5 to 7 years, somewhere in that neighborhood. So instead of dying at 65, you may die at 70 or 72 if you're lucky. And that's assuming that you're exercising pretty much the majority of your life. So the $1 million question is for you is that worth it? The time invested in exercising will only give you 5 years. Well, if you look at how many hours it takes to exercise for your entire life, you're putting in more than 5 years of work. So the argument against exercise is such that, well, I'm only gaining 5 to 7 years, but I'm actually spending 10 to 12 years total time of exercise where I could be doing something else. And you go, well, okay, but ultimately that's what it boils down to. If you exercise properly, you're going to get about 5 to 7 years. Now, what my experience has been is that people really think, it's varied, but some people think, well, that isn't worth it. And you go, well, it is if you're about to die at 65 and you knew you had 5 to 7 more years later, more. So, but that's what you need to think about is if you do these things from a lifespan point of view, you are going to increase your lifespan by 5 to 7 years. Now, health span is a little bit more difficult to measure because what does that actually mean? And I'm going to tell you, in my humble view, what that means. Health span means when you come to my office that you can take the stairs and not the elevator, that you're not totally winded by going to a grocery store and pushing the cart. You're worried about pushing a cart in a supermarket if it gets too heavy with all your foods that you put in the cart. If it gets too heavy, it's hard to push. You have trouble picking up your groceries out of the trunk of your car. You can't really go on a trip because there's too many stairs. There's a famous place that we've been to up in Central California called the Hearst Castle. And it's really a fascinating place to visit. The guy that was involved in newspapers, selling advertising in newspapers, was the Hearst guy and Hearst family. And it's really a fascinating place. But if you want to see this, you need to be able to walk. And it's actually got various tours that tell you how many stairs you're going to be taking, how long you're going to be walking for. And people can't do that. And I've had patients that have been to Europe where they go and see certain museums and things like that, and they're like, well, we can't see it because there's too much walking. So health span means that how can you enjoy life, and do you have the ability to do things that are considered normal in life? We're not talking about bench pressing 500 pounds or running a marathon. We're talking about the general stuff. Do you have trouble getting up out of your lazy boy to go to the kitchen? Do your knees hurt? Are you overweight? this type of thing. It's interesting because I have had patients where they think their health span is good because the numbers are good, so their blood sugar is good, their blood pressure is good, their thyroid is good. And you say, well, that's interesting because you're 310 pounds. And they go, no, my doctor says I'm totally healthy because my blood pressure is good because I'm on 3 or 4 different medications. My cholesterol is good because that's totally under control. I've got 3 or 4 medications to take care of that. My thyroid is good because I'm on 3 different medications for that. So people think that the numbers mean health span. But my view of health span is your physical capacity. How much stuff can you do? Exercise, of course, increases your health span, because if you're able to exercise and increase your capacity, your muscular capacity to do things, to walk, to hike, to go on a trip, to walk up a flight of stairs, to just simply walk to the kitchen, to lift your grandkids, to lift your groceries out of the back of your car. These are common problems that people have. Here's one for you. As you get older, do you want to be able to get off a toilet yourself without any assistance? Or do you want to have to hire some type of in-home nurse to help you bathe, get off a toilet, wipe your backside? I don't know about you, but I don't want to have to hire anybody to do that. I want the physical capacity to do that, and that's what exercise will give you. So 5 to 7 years in terms of lifespan, health span, hard to measure, but it definitely increases it. Now, the $1 million question is, from a lifespan perspective, to get those 5 to 7 years, how much exercise do you really need? What's the minimal effective dose? And this is where people argue about it, but the research surprisingly says that it's about 3, maybe 4 hours a week tops. You really don't need that much. And this is encouraging to people that, let's face it, a lot of people do not like to exercise, but simply walking for 30 minutes a day can have tremendous benefits on your overall health, from a health span perspective as well as the lifespan perspective. Well, let's just talk about the lifespan. Getting those 5 to 7 years, that really takes about 30 minutes a day of walking. It's not that difficult. And particularly for someone who doesn't like to exercise, this is very, very good news, because I'm going to show you here. Let's do this as 0 and you walk 30 minutes a day, you're going to get this much improvement in your health. Now, if you were to start weight training and train a lot more, granted, your health span will be improved, but you may get this much more improvement in your health. But that 30 minutes of walking per day gives you the majority of the benefits for your lifespan. That is awesome news, because it doesn't require a special gym. You could do this anywhere. It doesn't require any type of special equipment. It's just getting out of the house and walking. That is great news. What kind of exercise? Well, I just answered it. From a lifespan perspective, it really doesn't take that much. We're talking just walking. Now, I have a lot of patients who are older meaning over the age of 65. And what we notice is that people that are extremely athletic in their youth tend to end up with a lot of sports injuries as they get older. Things where their knees are starting to wear out, their shoulders are starting to wear out from the heavy usage. And the good news is that you really don't have to do that in order to live longer. But the trend right now, from a longevity perspective, is talking about a couple factors. Number one, VO2 max. And we're talking about the icing on the cake here. Remember this story? This is getting that extra boost. But VO2 max is the ability for you to do interval training or high intensity interval training. Or what I notice as a doctor of chiropractic, where I treat patients with a lot of musculoskeletal problems and metabolic problems, it's too difficult to do high intensity interval training. Many of them, their joints do not allow it. So where, yes, on paper, doing sprints by going to a park and running as fast as you can, or getting on a treadmill and running on the treadmill, or an elliptical or a bicycle and doing high intensity interval training will increase your VO2 max, which is a predictor of longevity. It's too difficult for a lot of people because of their joint pain. And this is where, again, we're looking at what's the minimal dosage of exercise necessary. So high intensity interval training, no doubt, is going to improve your lifespan as well as health span, but it may not be worth it for a lot of people because of the pain in the joints from doing it. So you have to find alternative ways of doing it. Swimming is a good example, but let's face it, a lot of people don't like to swim. Swimming is a very technical skill that requires good technique to get the most out of it. And most people are not swimming from one end of the pool to the other. They're basically drowning from one end of the pool to the other. That's their swim technique. So what kind of exercise you do, it really almost doesn't matter if you're looking for minimal dosage. Weight training is another one that's very popular on YouTube right now. People are talking about that you need to build muscle as you get older. You develop a condition called sarcopenia, where your muscles are starting to waste away. And this is true. And the weight training has been shown to improve the likelihood of increasing your lifespan because of the risk of injury. So a hip fracture, for example, for most people, a hip fracture, within 1 year, it's very likely that you are going to be dead. But if you are strong enough, if your muscles are strong enough to avoid that injury, then that of course improves your lifespan. Your health span, of course, is improved by weight training. But again, we're talking about the top-notch stuff. And most people, if they don't enjoy weight training, are simply not going to do it. Now, the time of the day, this is fascinating. The time of the day where you should exercise. Is there any research to support one or the other? Again, the research is mixed. I have my biases, and I'll tell you my observations from other patients who are older who are exercising every day. The best time to exercise is the morning, and I'm going to tell you why. Because if life has proven anything, it has proven that if there's any crap that's going to happen during the course of a day, it's going to interfere with everything that you want to do. If you can wake up in the morning, get your exercise done, and that way it's done and dusted for that day, then whatever shit is going to happen for the remainder of the day is going to happen, but you didn't miss out on your exercise. And that is something where Jack LaLanne used to say, get the workout done in the beginning of the day, because for a number of reasons, it stimulates your metabolism. It gives you that sense of accomplishment. Mentally, you feel so much better. But I think most importantly, there's something bad that's going to happen. And invariably, when I've told myself, oh, I'm going to exercise tonight, or I'm going to exercise later today, something always interferes with it, and I just miss the day. And then I walk around all pissed off. So if it's possible, exercise in the morning for those reasons. But research-wise, it really doesn't matter, because if you get the exercise in, it doesn't matter whether it's done in the beginning of the day, middle of the day, end of the day. Some people like to do it at the end of the day. That's just the way they jam. My wife and I like to go for walks at nighttime because she's not a morning person, I am. But after dinner, after we eat, we clean up the dishes, go for a nice little walk. It's good for controlling your blood sugar. It's good mentally. You get away from the stupid phones and the stupid social media. and we just talk and go for a little exercise and walk, and it's nice. But some days it's freezing cold, it's super windy, it's raining. There's a million excuses of why we won't go. So that's why, even though it's more fun or convenient for us to do it after dinner, it's better to do it in the morning. Now, the last concept, the fifth concept, is this. Is it better to do 30 minutes of exercise and then for the rest of the day be, just sitting on the couch watching Netflix or YouTube videos? Or is it better to do a little bit of exercise throughout the day? In other words, is 10 minutes of walking 3 times a day better than a 30-minute walk once a day? And the answer, the research shows, is from a longevity perspective, it doesn't matter. From a health span perspective, it doesn't matter. But from a convenience factor, it does matter. But the majority of the research showing physical activity shows that continuous movement throughout the day is actually better for you than a high intensity interval training and then you rest for the rest of the day. Now, the HIIT people, the high intensity interval training people, are not going to like this, but ultimately, from a longevity perspective, if you were to be active throughout the entire day, that will improve your metabolism much more than a high intensity interval training for 30 minutes. And then for the rest of the day, your body is toast and you can't move at all. Now, this is a problem I have because I actually mix it up. First of all, during the weekday, I might do exercise in the morning or in the afternoon. But because of my job, because of the nature of my job, this is a very physical labor type of job. Chiropractic is called the blue collar of healthcare because we are actually manually, with my hands, with my arms, with my body, physically walking from room to room. I'm on my feet 9 hours a day. And what I do is I'm manhandling people's bodies with my hands and my whole shoulders, upper body, and I'm adjusting them and moving people. And I have a lot of patients that are super heavy. So imagine doing a manual labor job where you're doing one-handed push-ups on people that are twice your size, that weigh twice as much as you. That's what I do for a living. So that's on the weekdays. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'll go for about a 2-hour bike ride each day. And then sometimes during the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'll do some type of calisthenic exercises, that type of thing. But on Saturdays are my day, Sundays are my day. I love to go out and ride my bike. Sometimes I'll go out for 3 hours, maybe 4 hours, but usually it's a killer session. I try to just destroy my body. I have a great time, love it. But for the remainder of the day, sometimes it's like, holy cow, I just want to sit on the couch and eat burritos. That's not an ideal thing for your longevity, but I like doing it, but it's only once or twice a week. But ultimately for you, if you're looking at maximizing the benefit with the minimal amount of effort put in, that is the way to do it, is to do continuous movement throughout the day. So if you can do a 10-minute walk in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, and 10 minutes in the evening, and then throughout the day be on your feet, you're gardening, you're moving around, you're being active. From a longevity perspective, that is what is going to benefit you the best. Now, I told you in the beginning that there's a factor involved in our lifespan and our health span that is probably more important than anything I just mentioned. And unfortunately, we don't like this because there's not a lot of hope, but it's the truth. It's genetics. Genetics plays a major role in lifespan. The thought process is this, that our genetics sets the range. Now, some people are going to live a long time, regardless of what they do. These are the people, like figure Willie Nelson. Why isn't that guy dead? The people from the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger, I mean, these people should be dead by all intents and purposes, but they're not, because God gave them a range, let's say between 80 to 90 years old. And they're genetically going to live that long, regardless of what they do, barring accidents and unavoidable things. So they could drink alcohol, they could smoke dope, they could smoke cigarettes. I mean, why isn't John Cougar Mellencamp dead by now? Doesn't he smoke like 3 packs a day? It's because of genetics. Life is not fair. So sure, if they had a healthy lifestyle, they may live to be 90, but if they have a terrible lifestyle, they may live to be 80. Some people, their genetics are piss poor. Their range is between 40 and 50. They live a great lifestyle, they may live to be 50. They lead a terrible lifestyle, they may live to be 40. Genetics plays a major role in lifespan. And unfortunately, we can only manipulate that type of change with our lifestyle by about 5 to 7 years. And that's unfortunate that genetics plays a role. This is why sometimes you hear of people that they live the perfect lifestyle and yet they die at 33 of a massive heart attack. Again, life is not fair. You must appreciate every day. The second component of genetics, and I truly believe this, and if you don't believe this, let me know in the comment section. This is always up for debate, is genetics does play a role in our health span as well. And let me give you an example. Some people are genetically gifted athletically, and some people are not. We all know the person who can't even throw a baseball. They just don't know how. And yet other people pick things up no problem and become superior athletes. I'm going to give you a good example. And this is an example that's my story. When I was young, I wanted to play football. And my parents signed me up for the Pop Warner football and all these different things. And I really loved it, except for as I was growing older, I started to notice kids that were tackling me and hitting me. They got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I just didn't grow. I was never a big kid. And I started to get a lot of injuries, and I would start to fear playing football. Now, I was a running back. When we played the offense, I was a running back, and I was a very good running back. And the reason I was a good running back is because I was scared to freaking hell of getting hit by these kids. So they would give me the ball, and when I was running, I wasn't running for the touchdown. I was running for my life. It was a scary thing. And by the time I got to about 11 years old, I started to realize, wow, I remember weighing about 75 pounds. And then on the defense, I was a nose guard, and I was up against the center. And this kid, I remember him. Because we knew, you know everybody. He weighed like 180 pounds. He was over double my weight. And somehow or another, I was supposed to get around him. Why were the coaches putting me as a nose guard? That's one of the dumbest things. But they put me there because I was fast and wiry and I was scared. But nonetheless, about 11 years old, I started to realize that my natural talents were not in strength sports. In school, they would do these tests. They would run you. They would see how many pull-ups you could do, how many push-ups, how many sit-ups, how fast you could run the 100-yard dash. And then they had this event where they put us on the track and you would just run around the track. And once you stopped running, your time was done and they would record your time. Well, I remember that I just, like Forrest Gump, just kept running until finally I was the last guy running in my school. And they finally had to say, hey, Story, you need to get off the track. It's time to go to the next class. So I was just good at endurance. The way my body is shaped, I'm good at endurance sports. This is not something I chose. This is just something that is God made. I am made to be an endurance athlete, not a strength athlete. So I ventured into different sports where endurance was more important. The reason I'm saying this is because many times people think, oh, look at that cyclist, he's thin, I want to be thin like him, do what they do. And the answer is that certain sports self-select for certain body types. It doesn't matter how much you want to race horses and be a jockey. If you're not 5'1" and 110 pounds, you're not going to be a jockey. If you are 250 pounds, it's very unlikely you're going to get on a bicycle, lose weight, and win the Tour de France. Likewise, if you're a Kenyan runner, it doesn't matter how much protein powder you eat, steroids you do, and weightlifting you do, you're never going to be a power lifter. So the argument for why people do certain sports is not always about desire. It's about genetics. So in summary, there's a lot of things you could do to improve your lifespan by about 5 to 7 years is what the research shows. Healthspan, it's almost unlimited, but you're going to have to know the minimum dose and at least do those things. Anything extra that you do is just adding maybe a year or two to your lifespan and maybe some more of your health span. Genetics plays a role, but ultimately what it boils down to for a lot of people is, does exercise make your life more enjoyable? That is a subject for another video. But if you're not loving exercise, hopefully this video will give you hope to improve your life, improve your health span, and improve your lifespan.